Okay, let's get started since the chat seems pretty quiet. And when we last left off, we were doing this slideshow program, and we have images, we have colored rectangles out of which we can make simple charts, we have font styles, we have slide inclusion. So when last I left off, we were in the middle of adding variables to the expressions with which you set these things up. So for example, you could set a variable to be the distance of this from the left-hand side, and then you could change that variable and all these guys line up, and you can change the widths of the lines and all that. That's where we ended at the end last time. So if I look through my slideshow file here, if I look for a $, this is where our variables are, and we're saying, hey, there's a rectangle from x0 to y0 and to y0 plus whatever and so forth. Now, this whole plus stuff, I started doing math expressions at the end last time, and I'm trying to keep the parsing of these math expressions very simple, right? I'm trying not to make it like a full compiler and stuff. I could easily do that because I've written many compilers, but I'm trying not to. So I'm just trying to make it a super simple thing. And in my first step toward implementing binary operators like plus and times and so forth, I only had it parse if it starts with a variable. So the following thing will not work. Well, the following thing will work. So if I say var hello is m plus 3, that'll work. And you can just see it's not complaining. Right, so if let me make this visible and I'll save this file again. Maybe you can't tell if it hot loaded. Let me see. Maybe it's not. Oh, Emacs didn't save it. Save it. There we go. So you saw that spew come out, and there's well, hello used an m, so one of these variables, one of these expressions should say plus 3. There we go. So that parsed with no error, m and then a plus 3. But if we do the following, if we say 3 plus m, that's not going to work, I don't think. Or did it? I believe what it should have done is given a parse error. But you know what? We're probably not actually checking for junk at the end of line in this case. So that's actually really bad. Let's get one that proves that this doesn't work yet, because when we make it work, we want to see something different. So where do I multiply by something? Do I multiply at all? No. All right, let's try this. If we say h plus 2, okay, that widens our margins, as you can see, right? So plus 1 plus 0. If I say 0 plus $h, okay, that doesn't work, right? It's just getting 0. So it's a double problem. It's not reporting that this plus $h wasn't handled, and it's not doing the addition, right? So that's what we're going to fix. And when we fix it, these lines will be correctly spaced out again. No, JavaScript was born in a way that's even worse than this, actually. Do I have constants for screen dimensions? You gotta, we do, all our units are scales of the screen height. Watch the earlier streams if you want to do that. I don't want to rat hole too much on stuff that's already explained in earlier videos, because then people who come and watch these later have to watch through a bunch of redundant explanations. So no, none of these numbers depend on the actual height in pixels of the window, for example, right? They're not exactly completely consistent yet, but we'll talk about that later, hence this comment. Okay, now it's been many days since I even looked at this, so I don't totally remember. It was here. Okay, here we go. We still had this buffer open, thankfully. So here's our print that we were looking at, that prints the variable and the rest of the expression. Now, we're only parsing the rest of the expression if we got a variable. So, some string comes in, we say, does it start with a $? It must be a variable, right? Otherwise, do a string to float. So all this other handling of what's the rest of the expression and do all this, we're actually going to factor that out and do it in the case where we have either you know, a numeric value or a variable. So we're going to take this, we're going to plunk it down there. Neither of these guys is going to return. We're going to drop this out here. I'm going to say result is a float, success is a bool, remainder or rest of expression is a string, and so if it doesn't start with a $, we just parse it as a float, right? Otherwise, if it's a variable, my indentation is wacky is because of the, yeah. So name and rest of expression, we get the variable name and the remainder into there. We look up the variable. Not a boo, a bool. Okay. What did we do in the case? We didn't have a fail case here. If no success, unable to parse floating point value starting at whatever value string. All right. Rest of expression. Okay, so now we've factored this out. Indentation, you're killing me. It's like I don't want to invest the time into Emacs to figure this out. People have emailed me some fixes. I haven't invested the time to figure those out yet either. Okay, so we got a number or a variable, and then we put the rest of the string in this rest of expression. So then we see if it's an operator. Well, let's just say, yeah. So we see if it's an operator that we handle, which is plus, minus, or times. And if so, we do that. We're not doing precedence between these things yet, so keep that in mind, right? Rest of string, it's rest of expression. Okay, let's see if that even compiles. Nope. I missed one of the renamings. Expression. 878. So for now, it really should be that. I don't know why we were returning the rest before. Okay, error. Oh boy. Okay, so our thing doesn't eat spaces before the float, and we really wanted that. So let's do that. See if that solves our problem. No, we're still doing it. Look at that. We're barfing on basically everything. How terrible is that? Unable to parse expression. whatever. Oh, if rest if C is equal to a space, then we're fine. Because remember, we have the rest. I didn't chop by spaces this thing. Should I have? Anyway, maybe it doesn't. Maybe that would have been cleaner. Okay. I still messed up. Unable to parse expression $H in line 96. Whoops, not that. Doing the wrong project. Okay, so we had a 0 and a plus. So that's our new thing that we're doing. So I guess I'm not surprised that it messed that up. But then we failed other stuff later on in the following line. Maybe it's just because we desynced or something. Unable to parse y coordinate of image. Let's fix that parenthesis. Even if it's a minor moral victory, we'll fix that. Okay. So we said unable to parse expression $H. This is what happens when I try to program after playing video games. I make mistakes very easy. But I figured, you know, it's been a few days, let's keep the momentum on this going. Unable to parse expression blah, which means we got a rest of expression consisting of $H, but not the plus. My string to float might be doing something bad if there's a plus. In fact, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. The problem is my string to float is garbage. Yeah. So it's skipping the plus. And the reason it's skipping the plus is the following reason. My string to float is not a real one yet. It's one that skips forward past characters that look like they're a float-like characters, and then passes that to the C standard library. The reason is just, you know, that's not the way it's going to be handled eventually, but that's how it is now. And the problem is that you can have pluses in floating point numbers. You can have one at the beginning, right? And you can have it, you know, in the exponent, right? You can say like e plus whatever if you're using that format. And so I'm going to have I'm going to have to put a hack into my hack, and we're going to have to say the following. Where are we? Okay, wait, this eat spaces didn't do anything, right? I think we determined, whoops. Did that do anything or not? If it didn't do anything, I'm taking it back out. Yeah, didn't do anything. Okay, so what we have to do is say, well, true, where true means hack your hack. Maybe that'll be a good stream some days when we go in and replace this. Okay, bool. Consider plus and minus, which is false by default. So I know in this particular format that we don't ever write, oh geez, consider it's got to be consider non-leading, because you need to be able to say a negative number and put a minus first. So we're going to do the following. If consider, and wait, this is true by default. So if consider non-leading, well, no. Okay, if we got one of these, if then we do nothing, right? Else hold on, right? Else, if we didn't find digits yet, we had better break, or if we did find digits. Oh, I'm so confused today. I'm sure this stream is amazing to follow. So we had better break out since this plus or minus, etc. came after digits. Right. So this is all goofball-y. I think in a real file format, you want to know exactly what formats of float are permissible, and you don't want to put it through a general reader anyway, but that's a whole different story. You'd probably just make it, well, if you didn't care how human readable it was, you'd just make it hex floats if it was text. I guess if you made it text, you would care about how human readable it was. Anyway, if we found digits, we break out, right? If you didn't find digits, it's fine. Maybe that is something. Okay, how do I find the one that I'm looking for? Okay, well, we still have some parse errors, but I'm looking for, no, it didn't do it. Wait. Okay, this is the wrong argument because I flipped around in my head the true and false. Okay, this part worked. So our rest of expression now contains a plus and the $h. So that's great. And then we got a variable. Now we're still not having a good time in line 97. So I thought that was a cascade from a previous error, but it's not. So let's look at why. Line 97, variable x0. Oh, it's because, okay, you know, when I changed that thing to be returning nothing, that wasn't right. Okay, no, this remainder that we set up here actually is used. Ah, what a pain in the butt. So I'm just gonna, whoops, copy it out here. Clean that up later. So we're just assigning a local underscore remainder because, yeah. Something about the colon equal. we'll talk about that in Q&A if anybody cares. Anyway, so we have this remainder, and let's get rid of this now because we don't need that mess. And we actually don't want to, when I changed all these to rest of expression for like 5 minutes, we didn't really want to do that. And in fact, I'm not even sure about this anymore. I don't think this is actually right. We'll take a look at that in a minute. So I'm changing all these back because I knew what I was doing. Still broken. Wow. Remember all those streams when I did tons of stuff and it worked the first time? Today is the opposite of that. Wow, I just totally destroyed everything at this point. All right, let's go back and think about it for real instead of... So line 3, it's not even parsing simple floating point numbers anymore, right? So we do string to float. It really should be. Wait, what? Value string. Okay. So value string is everything, the whole line that we got. So we need to set, if we don't set the remainder to whatever was left on the line that we got, that's no good, right? So indentation. Okay, so I'm going to make a new thing called RHS. We're going to assign that to string to float. And then we're going to break by spaces. We're going to say rest of expression remainder is break by spaces RHS, right? We'll eat some spaces there just in case. So what we're saying here is we've got a thing that's got both the rest of the expression, like plus b times c, and maybe some spaces in the rest of the command. So remainder needs to get the rest of the command, and rest of expression needs to get the math expression that's before the rest of the command. This is one of those cases where maybe if the variable names were clearer, it would not be so many problems. All right, so that's many, well, no, it's not many. Oh, God. Wow. You know, I'm tempted to just erase this whole stream and pretend it never happened and start over tomorrow. This is, for such a simple thing, after you've made like 8 mistakes, it just, you're digging yourself in a hole. I'm still not doing the right thing. I'm still not doing the right thing. Okay, this is wrong. This one is supposed to be rest of expression. So let's see what that says. That actually says when it's unable to parse. Let's see, unable to parse expression 9. Well, that's... Okay. Okay, so we have a number. What do we do up here? Because it's the same thing. It's like, what's after this? What is after the variable name? Could just be okay. I'm gonna do it the same way as this one works. I'm gonna do it a little bit differently here. So here we're calling string to float and just telling it, you know, whatever you give us back, we're gonna work with that. But this thing divides by spaces first, so we're gonna do it that way. We're gonna do this is break by spaces value string. So that's our expression. And then we don't need this RHS thing anymore. Rest of expression is what's before the space, remember. So we're string to floating of expression. And then we don't need that, right? Yeah. Okay. Wait, what is happening with, all right. Hey, okay, we're back to the land of sanity. I'm sorry for that like 15-minute diversion or however long that was. Are there any questions about that whole disaster that just happened? Now that we're back in the land of sanity. Oh, and we're not only back in the land of sanity, but the thing I was trying to do actually finally worked, right? The 0 plus whatever. This now is parsing correctly. So if I make that 1 plus whatever, or 3 plus whatever, that's going to be the same as whatever plus 3, right? It's, you don't see the bars moving. Because that's how it works. I don't see any questions in the chat. I guess that's because my amazing error-free deft programming skills have been too quick for everybody so far. That's okay. So now the scary thing is that was supposed to be the super simple thing that we do, and it would have been if I'd remembered what all the variables did. It was supposed to be the super simple thing that we do before starting to do something mildly harder. And the mildly harder thing is going to be operator precedence, because if we do h plus 0 times 3, this that is actually working. How about h times I guess it's like it's right hand coalescing. So I saw a question in the chat. So after that question, we'll come back and construct a case that doesn't work because the precedence is wrong. Will your slides actually work if you copy the slide file directory to another machine? That would be a great feature. Yes, it is by default how this works. So it doesn't use any installed operating system resources. Any resources it uses, including fonts and whatever, is locally saved in your slideshow so that it's exactly right, so that you don't have that problem. Is the software really going to benefit from any float format beyond simple number and decimal? Where do you see needing the exponent representation? No, I don't need it. It's just that I was calling out to a standard routine that handles that, right? That wasn't, that code that I went into that supposedly, in a very lazy way, parses floating point numbers was not written for this program. That was a standard library routine. And that's the whole point, is the confusion came because that wasn't written for this program and had a workaround in it that was not appropriate for this file format. Is the idea to zip up the slideshow? Well, I imagine we probably have a compile step that just does the equivalent of zipping it up for you. It just packs everything into one file, you know, with all assets maximally built and whatnot. No problem, I get the standard library. Was the reason for you to have an easy out parsing your own simpler representation? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was suggesting. Like if I wanted to actually, if I didn't care that much about getting features done tonight and just wanted to program for the programming of it, I might think about that. But you know, I have some source that does a good job, like a robust job of parsing floating point numbers, which is a little bit subtle, right? It's so subtle that people are still making research contributions to how to do that task. And so I was going to, at some point, adopt one of those. And so, you know, writing a hacky floating point parsing routine that doesn't necessarily give you the most correct answer in all cases is maybe not the best thing. Yeah, and to reiterate, this textual format is not very nice. It's just supposed to be simple right now. Eventually, we won't be using this format, probably, right? This format is just to get us to where we can build slideshows, right? Which is another reason why I don't want to spend that long on the parser, because I just don't want to spend that long on the parser. I actually wonder, maybe instead of doing just operator precedence, I do left to right. Nah. All right, let's construct a case. Let's see if my brain works well enough that we can even construct a case that is wrong. So I guess it's doing the 0 times 3, right? It's recursing, doing the 0 times 3 and passing it back. So if I go h times 1 plus 10, that might give us a really huge value, right? So that's actually h times 11. See that it's not moving, right? 1 plus 10, right? When in reality, you want it to look like this. Let's maybe, so that, the 1 plus 10 was pretty good. So when it's wrong, when it's doing h times 11, the red bar exactly just about reaches up to the bottom of this bitmap, when it really should be h plus 10, where the red bar is well below that with a margin, right? So this is the wrong answer. Oh wait, sorry, no, that was h times plus 10, right? That's h times 11, that's h times 10, that's h plus 10. It's really much smaller, so I made a mistake. So in the right answer, the purple lands exactly on the weirdo graph, and in the wrong answer, right, and those should obviously be the same thing, right? H times 1 plus 10 should be the same as h plus 10, and they're not right now. So what we have to do is, instead of right associating all of our expressions, we need to say, there's a couple of common tricks to this, and the one that we're going to do is we're going to say, well, you know, we only right associate as long as we're continuing at the same precedence, and if the precedence of an operator that we hit is less than the one that we're already handling, then we drop back and handle that separately, right? So this is going to be a little bit weird because I've never done it this way before, and like we've established, my brain is not really working today. So we're calling string to float, and I'm just going to say precedence multiply is 2, precedence add is 1, precedence undefined is 0. I don't know why I'm doing that one. And we're just going to say precedence is precedence multiply. Okay, so here we go. If C is equal to that, precedence equals precedence multiply. Okay, that's, oh, no. New precedence, right? Or next precedence. So the precedence, we're already coming in here parsing some chain of operators at some precedence. And the next precedence is this. And we say if next precedence is less than precedence, then we need to return what we've got so far, but also, you know, this rest of expression and say, hey, buddy, there's more. This is annoying. We're starting to return a lot of things. I might make like a helper procedure. Let's make a helper procedure. Okay, before we try to use this precedence for anything. Okay, so it shouldn't behave any differently yet because I didn't actually use that precedence value. So I'm going to factor this a little bit differently because I'm going to make, it's kind of messy because this string to float is the interface to the rest of the program. And if I want to make this more recursive in a more complex way, I don't want to expose that complexity like this plus additional return values and stuff to the rest of the program, right? I want to hide that. So I'm going to do the following. Since we're doing this break by spaces operation here early, I'm just going to do this. We're going to get rid of that. Whoops, wait. Hold on. My brain is not working today. Okay, so rest is like the... Yeah. So here we're advancing across the $sign and then breaking by spaces, which won't matter because there's not allowed to be a space after the $sign. So we're going to do this, right? And then we're advancing expression by 1. We're going to clean that up. Now this looks like a bug because we're not ever using rest. So get variable name must be looking for the $sign to begin with. No. Oh, maybe advance? No? What? Well... I'm going to name this something better. Let me just make sure I've got the right thing there. Oh, okay. Yeah, we were using rest there. Obviously. Okay, so we're getting the correct variable names, and we're still getting our numerically incorrect answer here, so that's good. So all I'm trying to do is factor this a bit. So we factored that, And now we should just be able to factor it out of there. That worked. So now this stuff is a little bit simpler. And what we're just going to do is factor it into a subroutine. Because remainder is just now, remainder is not going to be changed by anyone down here. So we're going to do the following. We're going to say result is, let's call it parse expression show handler expression. We're probably going to want more things in parse expression. And we'll do this here, and then return success. And so we're just going to turn all this stuff here into parse expression. I wonder if I can, I want to make my indentation not screw up. Oh, really? Emacs. All right, is my indentation better? Yeah, okay. $sign. The things I do to get indentation. All right, so we said that's going to be parse expression, and the reason I pasted that line up here is I'm just going to make this big honking thing. And expression is a string, and we're going to return remaining, or result is a float, and remaining expression is a string. Oh, and we're going to pull our precedence down here. Okay. And then we're going to indent. Now, let's, you know what, this is big enough, let's just pull it out. Let's just pull it out, we'll put it down here. Boom. This is not called value string. Yeah, it's called expression now. Redeclaration of results. Right. I guess I should return a success. Result, success, remaining expression. More expression. Let's call it more expression so it doesn't sound like remainder. All right. Unexpected input in code block, because my pastage didn't do that. Okay, this shouldn't be remainder anymore. Now it really should be rest of expression. Whoops. I might be really screwing this up. That's fine. Not all control paths return a value. That's a weird... Okay. No, it's not weird. No, it's not weird. Actually, all paths do return a value. I think. Maybe that's not right. No, they definitely. Oh no, they don't necessarily. Right. Okay. If rest of expression was empty, we didn't handle it. All right. Okay. Wow, this turned into a really long procedure somehow. All the freaking error reporting. I think we're implying that success is true. Fine. All right, let's hope I didn't screw that up too badly. All right, I didn't, thankfully. I sure could have, knowing how things are going tonight. So, all we did was take that big block of stuff and factor it out into a different thing. But we also changed it where we're returning whatever's left in that expression. So now, we're going to say, if we got a precedence that is less than the current precedence, well, we got to do this check first, because I'm calling. Okay, so first of all, instead of string to float, which was our thing of our access to the, where is it? This was our interface to the rest of the program. The whole point of factoring this out is we don't want to call that anymore. So instead of string to float here, we call parse expression. Wait, no, that's wrong. Not there. That string to float, this is the problem with overloads. This is the standard library routine that actually parses a float. This was our wrapper that we also called string to float that substitutes variables. This is the one we don't want to call. This is the one we want to call parse expression. And there we pass the show, the handler. Sub expression. And the next precedence. Okay, so we want to do this check way up here. So, if whatever precedence we were called with is greater than whatever operator that we're doing right now, in other words, given that we only handle 3 operators, if we switch from a multiply to anything that's not a multiply, then we just say return whatever result we have so far, true because we're successful, and rest of expression. Right? And now what we're going to do is in the caller, we're going to complain if we got extra junk, because we're bailing out here. So now we're just not going to handle the multiply. So we need to call back in to handle the multiply. That's good. So parse expression. Let's make sure our return values are right. So sub result, success, and let's call this more expression, because that's what it is now. this is no longer something that we want to barf on. We want to return, because it's now expected that anyone we call may return back to us an expression that's of lower precedence than what we're processing, right? Okay. Okay. So now this isn't actually going to work yet because, like I said, we're not handling the fallback, but I want to make sure that it at least, yeah, it doesn't, right. So now, well, let me, when we choose to bail out, let me print when that is happening. Where's that test? Precedence. Decrease our error handler. So that'll tell us what line that's on, right? So let's put the new line inside the string and not outside. Okay, 96 through 100. Let's see what's there. So that's right. I don't know why 97, 98, 99, and 100. That's weird. Let's print out more information. And let's print out from 2 to 1 plus 10. Oh. Yeah, so we're defaulting to multiplication, which means for any add, right. So what we want to do is actually precedence none. Because we want to be able to go up to any of these guys. Like I said, I've never done this before, so I don't. So when we call in here by default, we're going to get precedence none, and then that'll go up. Okay, there we go. Line 96 is the only precedence decrease from 2 to 1, and the rest of the expression is plus 10. That's good. So what it's saying is, hey, we're trying to multiply, and we know that we're doing things in the wrong order, and now, you know, we have to stop and handle this, right? So here's what happens. We're going to do the following. While true, we're going to loop and keep parsing expression. We want to do something like the following. Like we want to loop, we want to keep calling parse expression, right? And if we weren't successful, we break, and then we say expression equals more expression, right? So now the thing is, we want to accumulate this value into result somehow. So I need to factor this in some kind of a different way. Because the way that we're combining things is down here. So maybe the loop just goes down here. Maybe we just say, while there's a rest of expression, okay, well, if we ever had a precedence decrease, we bail out, but you can't have a precedence decrease from the root call to this routine because it's the lowest precedence, right? So it's going to keep adding or doing whatever. Okay, hold on. I'm suspicious about this. Do we really need that? What did I break? Oh, do we really need that? What did I do? Oh yeah. So we don't need that space thing. That was me being confused about what was happening. So while we have a rest of the expression, and we say, well, expression is more expression. Yeah, like I think that's all we do, is we loop here, we keep eating stuff, and we either return or break or whatever. Now up here, if no success, we should have reported an error. If success, if more expression, error, handler, junk at end of expression, whatever. Okay, let's try that. Can't assign an immutable argument because that's how I do things for some reason. Maybe the compiler will automatically lift that to a mutable argument. I don't know. I haven't decided what my policy is on argument mutability because there are actual implementation concerns that affects. All right, this success can at least go down here. Okay, now it's infinite looping. Now it's infinite looping. So what is going on? How is that? Let's see what it says. Plus 10. Okay, so we have a plus 10. Oh, bleh. Bleh, it's not expression that's more expression, it's rest of expression. That's more expression. Goofball. I didn't need to do my mutable. Hey, look, it's the right answer. The purple is on the thing. So let's go here. And h times 1 plus 10 is the same as h, wait, what was it? H times 1 plus 10 is the same as h plus 10, right? Times 1. I can add and remove the times 1 and it doesn't change. whereas h times 11 gives us that wrong answer we had before. So now it works. I am going to go back and, well, I'm going to take this out because that's not an error. And there was a cleanup that I was going to do. Oh, because I didn't need to do this argument mutability thing anymore because we don't assign to that. Don't assign to that. Are there any questions about what just happened? Someone's saying a rapid search for precedence climbing algorithm might save you some headache. Yeah, but like the point is that I'm practicing this, right? And I'm getting better. If you just look at something on Stack Overflow and type it in, then you're not really grappling with it or whatever, right? Whereas if you're actually figuring it out, you get better at it, I think, faster, right? Like you should really understand what you're doing and so forth. So what are my thoughts on modern editors, IDE such as Atom? They're horrible. Shouldn't precedence climbing start from the lowest precedence and scale up? It depends on whether what you're doing is right associative by default or left associative by default, right? So the thing that I'm doing is right associative by default, which means the following, right? If you have A times B plus C times D, let's put some spaces there, that's going to parse, before you do any precedence climbing, into A times B plus, no, A times B plus C times D, right? Because I'm recursing and doing it on the right. If you were doing like an operational semantics thing that eats the next operator and operand and does it on the left, you could end up with something like this. You know, A times B plus C times D. And depending on which of these that you end up with, you want to do it one way or the other way, right? If that makes sense. I made a rectangle an image without a texture, but will I have other shapes? Will there be a triangle, and will that also be an image without a texture? Shouldn't all shapes be the same object? Perhaps image could inherit from rectangle, which would inherit from shape. No! If you've done 3D programming, you know that in general, one of the things we do is we apply arbitrary texture maps to shapes with UV coordinates. So if we have a triangle, that triangle will be the same image format, and it'll just have UVs that map a texture map onto the triangle, and so you could have a textured triangle. Like, why wouldn't you want to have a textured triangle, right? So they would all be the same primitive. It's just instead of the width and height variables or whatever, you'd use a separate data slot on it. That's like, you know, if it was an arbitrary polygon, you would have just a bunch of polygon points, something like that. Apparently it's being used for a lexical block. Well, there's no such thing as a lexical block in the language, so I don't know why that's in there. I mean, it gets used for polymorph variable names. No, but this is, yeah, I don't know. That would just be an error in the mode if it's in the Emacs mode. I didn't write that Emacs mode, so. All right, that might be everything that I wanted to do today. because like I have demonstrated, I'm a little bit slow today. All right, well, we did math operations. We did operator precedence. I don't know if I want to do parentheses. We did that. We made math operations parse if you start with a constant. And I don't think this needs to be under the heading of variables anymore because we have variables. So it's always good when your to-do list gets shorter. I guess I'll do divided by. We've made sure these work. I don't want to do parentheses right now. We'll add it back later if we find that we want it. So I'm just going to do divide, and then that'll put us in a nice place next time to stop goofing around with the text file and start doing actual presentation stuff, like drawing the cursor and letting you change the cursor and maybe drawing on the slides. And that stuff will be, I think, more fun and visual than what we're doing right now. It's all the more reason to make it short. So let's do divide. Let's have a test for divide. So if we go back to my.show, we have, let's try h divided by 1 plus 10. That sure had better work. Right now, it's barfing on it. We don't know what divided by 1 plus 10, and then we didn't declare m, so everyone who uses m is upset with us. Yeah. So let's figure out that divide. And the only reason I postponed divide before was that you just have to check for divide by 0. So if it's times and divide are typically the same precedence. All right. So case divided by, well, we will say if sub-result, else, whatever. Robustness, check against an epsilon instead of just a hard 0. Because when you say if sub-result, it means is it not equal to exactly 0 or whatever. It's like, does it test as an IEEE floating point as being non-zero? Which, if it's a very, 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 very small number, you may still not want to divide by it. I am not well versed in numerical analysis kinds of things, so I don't exactly know what's a good epsilon. It probably depends on the numerator. So I don't know how to test for an epsilon in a good way, so I'm just not going to do it. If we have a sub-result, result divided by equals sub-result, else, error, handler, divide by 0. There we go. So we will test that divide by 0 checking works as well. Hey, the divide by 1 worked because the things are in the right place. Where is that? Divide by 0. There we go. Error in line 96, divide by 0. So good, we detected that. We just ignored the rest of the expression, or we ignored the divide, and then we recursed back up and added the 10. So yeah. So I think that's it. I think we're done for now. Are there any final questions before I go play video games? Add the operator. I go to the to-do list. Where's my to-do list? There it is. Okay, so next time we'll do cursor stuff, which will be fun. And not dry like this was. Can I clarify the discussion above about saving? What discussion above about saving? you're going to have to ask the question somewhere that I know where to look. How do you save expressions from the editor? Well, you would just have the editor understand what an expression is, and you would type it in. You know, like a spreadsheet is something that has the text of an expression and it evaluates it when you change numbers. And so it would be exactly that. It would be like, you know, a slideshow, whatever, when you have a GUI editor for, I assume you mean a graphical editor for the slideshow. So when you have a graphical editor, you would also have something that's a little bit like a spreadsheet in it, where you could assign the values of variables and then those get used, right? Which I think is, you know, what I want. I don't want the stuff that's in PowerPoint that doesn't work very well. What if you manually move an element defined by the expression? Well, it wouldn't work that way. It would be, you know, if you say the left boundary of this thing is determined by a certain expression, then it would be locked against you moving it, right? Like, why would it let you move that? How would you bind an expression to the size of a box with the graphical editor? Because it's sort of a non-trivial thing to some of you. Yeah, but like we'll talk about that when we get to it. There's no point in talking for half an hour about something that'll be covered way later. All right, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Next time we get to be more visual and do cursor things. For now, I'm just going to flip through the images to remind myself that we can be visual and not about goofy expression parsing. All right. See you guys later.